On the night of December 16, 1773, Boston Harbor lay quiet under a winter sky. Ships rocked gently in the cold water, their cargo holds filled with chests of tea from the British East India Company. By morning, that tea would be gone dumped into the sea by ordinary colonists committing an extraordinary act of rebellion. This event, remembered as the Boston Tea Party, became one of the most powerful symbols of resistance in American history and helped ignite the American Revolution. The roots of the Boston Tea Party stretched back more than a decade. After the costly French and Indian War, Britain was deeply in debt. Parliament believed the American colonies should help pay for their own defense. So it imposed new taxes, including the Stamp Act and the Townshend Acts. To many colonists, these taxes were unacceptable because they were enacted without colonial representation in Parliament. The rallying cry, "No taxation without representation," spread through towns, taverns, and newspapers. By 1773, most of these taxes had been repealed except one. The Tea Act of that year allowed the British East India Company to sell tea directly to the colonies at a reduced price, undercutting colonial merchants and smugglers. On paper, the tea was cheaper than ever, but colonists saw the act as a dangerous trick. If they accepted the tea, they would also be accepting Parliament's right to tax them. To many Americans, this was not about the price of tea, it was about freedom. Resistance quickly grew in port cities like New York, Philadelphia, and Boston. In most places, colonists forced tea ships to turn back without unloading their cargo. Boston, however, became the center of the crisis. Royal Governor Thomas Hutchinson refused to let the ships leave without unloading and paying the tax. 3 ships, the Dartmouth, the Eleanor, and the Beaver, sat in the harbor as tensions rose. On the evening of December 16th, thousands gathered at the Old South Meeting House to debate what should be done. Among them were members of the Sons of Liberty, a secret resistance group that included Samuel Adams and other radical leaders. When it became clear that the governor would not compromise, a signal was given. As night fell, around 60 men disguised themselves as Mohawk Indians. Their disguises were symbolic, meant to represent a new American identity separate from Britain. Moving quietly toward Griffin's Wharf, they boarded the ships one by one. Working with discipline and purpose, they broke open 342 chests of tea and dumped their contents into the icy harbor. The water soon turned brown with floating leaves. Remarkably, nothing else was damaged, and no one was injured. It was a protest, not a riot. News of the Boston Tea Party shocked Britain. Parliament was furious. To them, this was not a protest, but an act of destruction in open defiance. In response, Parliament passed the Coercive Acts of 1774, known in the colonies as the Intolerable Acts. Boston Harbor was closed until the destroyed tea was paid for. The Massachusetts government was placed under tighter British control, and British troops were quartered in the city. Instead of isolating Boston, these harsh measures united the colonies. Sympathy poured in from across America in the form of food, supplies, and support. Colonial leaders met in 1774 at the First Continental Congress to coordinate resistance. What began as opposition to attacks was becoming a movement for self. The Boston Tea Party changed everything. It showed that colonists were willing to take bold, illegal action to defend their rights. It also convinced many in Britain that the colonies could not be controlled through compromise alone. In 2 years, shots would be fired at Lexington and Concord, and the American Revolutionary War would begin. Today, the Boston Tea Party is remembered not simply as an act of protest, but as a defining moment when ordinary people stood against a powerful empire. On a cold night in Boston Harbor, tea was thrown into the sea, but a revolution was set in motion, one that would change the course of history forever.